Well, focusing on small businesses, you know, we sponsor close to $2 billion worth of small business investment companies. So we're really in touch with that segment. And if you read the report that Citi based that off of, it was actually a very optimistic report. But the key thing that came out of it was they said they can't find employees for their jobs. So when you look at the first chart, I wonder if it's not tainted a little bit because of the word frustration. I'm frustrated, I can't find more employees, maybe I won't hire. The second chart I leave more credence to. Hey, you know, we're not quite sure what's going to happen here. We're a little bit worried. And that can go from anything to increase in rates, China, all kinds of bad news out there, et cetera. So I think people are generally hesitant, and it has put a little stall on the bull market.
Dory, what do you make of the recent market action? We've seen lots of volatility, a lot of this being attributed to trade, but some of the economic data that we've gotten out recently is not as strong as we had been expecting it to be. Just in terms of where you're seeing opportunity right now, how do you play this type of market?
Well, I think we need to wait and see for sure. This China thing is getting out of control, and I think people are forgetting a little bit why. We need to go back to Huawei. When you look at Huawei, that went from a business issue to a national security to a world security issue. You know, Huawei is very integrated in core systems of technology. And this went from a business technology trade war to now a national security, world security trade war. We just don't hear about it all in the press because, you know, national security agencies aren't talking about it. But that's a big problem out there. And China expects the world to pay for their systems through Huawei and the Americans to enable it. And the Americans are saying, wait a minute. So this could take a while, and if it does, you know, you're going to see some pricing impact and maybe even some inflation in some products just because we've got supply chain interruption.
Any fears here in terms of its potential impact on the economy, just in terms of percentage points, tenths of a percentage point? Is this something that we should be worried about when we're trying to evaluate the markets right now?
You know, it's probably a little overblown. I mean, the best data that I've seen is that it's 50 basis points of GDP. We had more than that surprise to the upside in the last quarter at 3.2. I don't think anyone was expecting anywhere near 3 or 2.75. So I think we just kind of need to let this play out a little bit. And this is really going to be interesting. I kind of look at it as a positive. All these retail companies need to look at their supply chains and go, do I have an overdependence on a communist country that we're at a technological war with? I need to change regardless of what the trade war happens.
Well, speaking of retail, I want to get your thoughts on just that sector overall. I mean, we've heard from a lot of these companies in regards to tariffs. Target was just out this morning saying that it's already baked into their full year guidance. Walmart was talking last week, their CFO saying that they may need to pass on the increase of prices to their consumers. When you're trying to evaluate the retail landscape, there's so many different stories going on within retail. What looks attractive to you right now?
Well, you know, I'm leery about retail because it's a supply chain interruption, but I do think it creates some issues. And some of the companies are actually trading pretty cheap. I think Target looks attractive here, but we had the bad news on Nordstrom's, and I think they still look attractive. You know, but Target's got all this surprise of the upside. I don't think anybody expected them to come out and say, hey, we're going to compete as effectively as we have with Amazon and Walmart. That's a very encouraging sign. So let's say you're totally dependent on China for a supply chain and your prices are going to go up. You got to think, how long am I going to be able to do that before somebody undercuts me with sources out of Vietnam or Malaysia or somewhere else?
Dory, we heard Scott Ginn was on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange earlier for us, and he was talking about Apple. It's the worst performer so far today in the Dow. In your notes, you say, I buy on bad news and this is bad, and you're talking about Apple. Would you buy Apple on a day like today?
I think I'm a little bit hesitant to back that statement up right now. You know, I want to. I love buying on bad news, but I just think there's some more bad news to come out of this. And, you know, I think as someone was saying on here earlier, you know, it could hit them drastically if Chinese can't buy phones.
Certainly could. Well, Dory, Wiley, thanks so much for stopping by today.
You bet. Glad to be here.